Africa's numeric and economic powerhouse, Nigeria, is often perceived as a paradox. Rich in resources, yet not resourceful enough to convert its reservoir of raw materials to measurable wealth for its citizens. The absence of the collective will to activate local manufacturing and industry, compounded by the seemingly bottomless income from crude sales, meant Africa's giant had nowhere to hide once its single bargaining chip lost value at the global threshing mill. Muhammadu Buhari coasted to victory at the 2015 polls on the conviction that a change of approach was obligatory. Upon resumption, the new administration found that a fierce battle is at hand: an empty treasury.
Alas, by the time campaigns were over, elections won, government formed, the price of crude had crashed from an all high of $100 and above to about $30. Now, it takes courage, it takes commitment, it takes sacrifice for any government to manage this kind of shock. And that's exactly what we've been doing all along. And we've succeeded largely because of our discipline. We've succeeded largely because of the integrity of the leadership. We've succeeded because we've been able to take appropriate measures to stop the bleeding.
Securing the nation, tackling corruption and fixing the economy were the top items on the Buhari administration to-do list.
President Muhammadu Buhari is very focused. I admire his firm stance against corruption. People don't appreciate how much of the resources of this country was wasted, where we would have been today without corruption. Already people are talking about the possibility of up to even $16 billion that were diverted over the last few years. You can imagine what that could have done for us as a nation.
Nevertheless, more digging upon the handover uncovered what is rightly perceived as the biggest hindrance to Nigeria's socio-economic health and vitality.
Everybody is beginning to realize that their enemy is not the gentleman who is walking beside them, but that it's corruption that is taking away a lot of what they're entitled to, and that corruption has a face. So now what we're trying to do is to remove the mask from that general term corruption and say, look, what exactly is this and what should we be doing to address this?
The biggest thing was the corruption. People were stealing money, people were diverting government money, and you know, this is where the effect of corruption comes in, because corruption is not just enriching oneself, it's actually depriving others. So stopping the corruption means there's more money to do things government should do. Then also we've looked at wastage. You know, we've looked at areas like ghost workers, people collecting salary that do not exist, people collecting multiple salaries, we're blocking those ones. We're looking at wastage also in terms of what do we spend money on? Where we spend more money on travel than we spend on roads, you cannot develop your economy.
The Minister of Finance told me that she has uncovered 23,000 ghost workers. And a week ago, she discovered 11 more thousand. And in payment and allowances, that amounts to more than $500 million a year. So you can see how some of the Nigerian elite connive to destroy the country. And I assure you that I have told the governors, I told the ministers, that I will not spare anybody that was found to be corrupt in any form.
More than clearing encumbrances circumscribing anti-corruption agencies, the administration pursues global collaborations to recover plundered funds, while structural and procedural measures were reactivated to block the drain pipes.
It's amazing the the return we got from Central Bank of food input, fish, milk, and other things is incredible, simply incredible. These are things that Nigeria can export. But because there is hard currency available for people to get and do what they like, they just fill papers and say they are importing toothpick or they are importing fish, and they go outside and do whatever they like with the money. That's why this government takes the decision that the first thing is for us to be self-sufficient in what we can produce. That was why the Central Bank, I think, issued a list of about 43 or 41 items where those items would not be entitled to foreign exchange.
Curbing excesses and orienting our tastes to fit our production. For instance, since this administration came, I think about 41 items had been banned from forex allocation. These items include palm oil, which Nigeria can produce a lot. It includes tomato purees, which we can do. It includes even toothpicks, which is ridiculous in the first place. It includes fruit juices. All these things were what we wasted foreign exchange on. And this administration has said, no, we cannot continue to live that way. Instead of using scarce foreign exchange on the productive sector, on the real sector, why are we wasting them on those luxury products? So if anybody wants tomato puree, by all means, fine, he can have it, but let him go and source foreign exchange on his own. If anybody wants to buy imported toothpick, by all means, let him source foreign exchange to do it. But government will not provide foreign exchange for those things.
With these new economic realities factored into Nigeria's change agenda in the face of dwindling fortunes of oil and gas, the need to broaden the revenue base became imperative. Commodities which found their way into the country, undermining local production, were struck out on the forex privilege list, while sharp practices at the nation's borders were confronted headlong. The current strategy is aimed at ensuring better service delivery and hawk-eye vigilance at the nation's entry points.
NIMASA, customs are heavy revenue generating agencies for government. But it's one thing to generate those revenues, it's another thing for them to enter government coffers. But you will see that with new emphasis on prudence, on accountability, whatever is generated is harnessed and it gets into government coffers.
I have three mandates given to you, Mr. President. One is the restructuring of the service, reforming the service, and most important two is raising the profile of the revenue generation. And in order to achieve this, we set some parameters. First, with regards to restructuring, we have to look at the service as it were and where we want to move it.
The Nigerian tax system, which witnessed significant changes in recent years, is being positioned for greater efficiency. Ambiguities in the spheres of collection within and among the three tiers of government are being clearly spelled out. A revenue target of 4.97 trillion naira has been set for the nation's tax collector in 2016, moving all hands to the plow towards meeting the country's expectations.
The first idea is to get everybody on board. Clearly, there are quite a number of people who are not yet in the tax net. We've been able to bring in well over 400,000 new corporate accounts in the last 2 to 3 months. And now it's a matter of them just being compliant and making payments.
We're looking at revenues. where is government's money? Those who are collecting government's money, is it actually coming into the treasury or is it leaking out into certain hands?
Mutual cooperation among government agencies and parastatals is being stimulated to enhance information sharing and reduce the incidence of tax evasion and fraudulent practices.
What we have done so far, first of all, is to exchange tax information. We've given all the states our own tax database, and we've collected the tax database from all the states. So any name not appearing on either database is now automatically put into the tax net. And so at the state level, they have found out they had a number of taxpayers who had never paid any state tax. And also at the federal level, we found out that there are some taxpayers within the states that never paid any federal tax. So first of all, we expanded the tax net internally. And second of all, we also exchange best practices. We help the states in the area of tax administration. And if need be, we help them with logistics.
With parameters established for revenue collection and a benchmark set for the nation's oil price, President Buhari and his team rejigged the national planning and budget procedure. Concept, projections, and evaluation now share a common platform with performance-laden milestones to gauge the impact of Nigeria's new policy direction.
When resources are tight and you have to make a lot of changes, you first of all have to have a plan. And so this ministry, our responsibility is to develop the plan. The president also felt that it was important that the budget, which is the main instrument of implementation of the plan, that it comes into the same office. That means that you can develop a budget strictly in accordance with the plan. And also, part of our responsibility is monitoring and evaluation. So we develop the plan, allocate resources, and monitor and evaluate.
The much anticipated 2016 budget, which went through a prolonged gestation period, was eventually delivered by the midwives, the executive and the legislature. A document with strategic emphasis on capital outlay to reflect the Nigerian economy focuses on optimizing 7,000 megawatts of electricity to enhance productivity and employment generation. Construction of the Lagos-Kano rail line to facilitate mass transportation and reduce pressure on the nation's road infrastructure. Completing the Kaduna-Ajakuta railway lines in 2016. Rehabilitation and construction of 31 major projects and highways, and improving connectivity over a distance of 210,000 kilometers through public-private partnership, among several.
And the budget of change is, it really is a different budget from the type of budgets we've seen in the past. Firstly, it's bigger, it's 6 trillion. Secondly, it's got a 30% commitment to capital. And we believe that capital is what will really unlock our economy. What is capital? Capital are, your long-term assets, your power, your roads, your rail, your airports, your ports, the things that actually grow development. In the past, we've only spent 10% of government expenditure on capital, and that's really what has caused that underdevelopment, especially in our rural areas. It's not allowed us to really take advantage of some of the opportunities that we have. So we think that by addressing these deficiencies in infrastructure, by spending capital, we can actually get this economy to grow again.
The focus of the budget was on infrastructure, because as you know, for some time now, we have not been spending enough on our infrastructure. Our roads are not in the very good condition. We need a railway system, which we do not have. Our airports need rehabilitation. And so the focus of our budget, the 2016 budget, was infrastructure. Within that budget, we are spending over 250 billion. We are allocated over 250 billion on roads, whereas the 2015 budget had only about 18 billion on roads. So we're looking at roads in all the geopolitical zones.
This is the first time a government has, consciously sought out to take into consideration the interests of the poorest of the poor by allocating ₦500 billion for social intervention, employment of 500,000 unemployed graduates, employment of 100,000 artisans and technicians, the enterprise scheme, which is aimed at giving revolving loans to 1 million market women, 460,000 artisans, and 200,000 agricultural workers. The 1 meal a day program targeted at 5.5 million pupils. The conditional cash transfer to the most vulnerable Nigerians, and the scholarship and bursary for students in tertiary institutions studying science, technology, engineering, and mathematics.
A priority area which is considered crucial to the success of the plan is the diversification of the economy, with agriculture as the viable alternative. The agric sector's huge potential in the creation of jobs through value addition processes is expected to boost new competencies and create spin-offs. The systematic stimulation of the sector and the long-term aspiration of energizing the solid mineral sector are expected to quickly and progressively bear fruits that will lead to further deletion of more foreign commodities from the nation's import list.
We want to move away from the single reliance on oil. We want to be able to grow most of our own food that we eat. We want to be able to make the clothes that we wear. We want to launch a Made in Nigeria campaign, which we will soon launch, to try and move us away from this dependence on the single commodity crude oil. In the end, over the next 2-3 years, by the time we succeed, we will not even bother about how much we're getting from crude oil. Whatever we're getting from crude oil, we use it for capital, for any additional capital projects, because it is about time we moved away from this dependence on crude oil.
We have a lot of opportunities outside of oil. We have opportunities in food, in solid minerals, in all sorts of areas. And what we think is that these policies, this investment in infrastructure will create the enabling environment for people to go out and start up businesses, or for foreign companies to come in other areas other than oil and take advantage of the opportunities of the Nigerian market. And we think that that's a very sustainable model that will create a lot of jobs for Nigerians, and particularly small businesses, because we found that our people, especially our young people, very entrepreneurial. A lot of them don't even want to work for anybody. They have ideas, they're creating apps, they're doing all sorts of things in the media space, in food and drink. We think we'll create that enabling environment to allow them to go out and create wealth and create, jobs for others, as well as creating jobs for themselves.
There is also the articulated plan to adopt and execute a comprehensive national oil and gas policy, which will serve as a roadmap for the petroleum industry development, diversification, and privatization. The plan sets a 3-year deadline for Nigeria to achieve self-sufficiency in refined petroleum products and become a net exporter. As these plans take effect, the thorny and recurring issues of foreign exchange and scarcity of petroleum products with their spiraling consequences have obligated some priorities.
It has now become obvious that the only option and course of action now open to the government is to take the following decisions. 1, in order to increase and stabilize the supply of the product, any Nigerian entity is now free to import the product subject to existing quality specifications and other guidelines which will be issued by regulatory agencies. 2, all oil marketers will be allowed to import PMS on the basis of forex procured from secondary sources, and accordingly PPRA templates will reflect this in the pricing of the product.
From October last year till today, 90% of every petrol that was brought in by NNPC. Not because NNPC has a foreign exchange, because NNPC was using in a more transparent way. It's what it calls DSDP, that's direct sale, direct purchase. Of the 445,000 barrels of crude allocated to our local refineries, it has been exchanging it for petrol. But even if that 445,000 was converted to petrol, it only met 48% of our daily consumption. So NNPC has been dipping into the crude meant for federation account. And we know that we cannot continue.
Nigeria's renewed vigor to stamp out corruption, ensure transparency and employment of international best practices look to be winning her global recognition.
The harassment, people stopping you to collect multiple levies and taxes, all those things, ease of getting land, getting approvals, getting building permits, all those things that are being constraints to Nigerians who want to do business. We are looking at tackling them one by one.
We believe that things will change. The economy will change, the level of business will change, and as we are working towards blocking every inch of these leakages, we believe that we'll be able to meet our targets by the grace of God.
As today is engaged for a secure tomorrow at a time prudency is standing in the space vacated by recklessness, upholding trust by the leaders and maintaining same by the led is germane. For intangible as it is, trust forms the solid cord that unites a nation in the cause to reclaim its halcyon years and scale to a pedestal of genuine development, anchored on productivity, opportunity, and prosperity.
When you're building a house, you have to make sure the foundation is right. And I think the first year of this government has been putting the structures in place, building the foundation to take Nigeria to the next level.
If you speak to people and you listen to them, people are thinking, what can I do? People are thinking, okay, what do I do? How do I take position? People are going to start up farms in their villages because there's this focus on agriculture and everybody can see that there are opportunities to make money in that area. So I think it's actually started, but I think it will begin to manifest as we roll forward.
We're moving in the right direction. We've identified the problems. We have organized ourselves. We are setting out policies that are going to get us there, but it's not going to happen overnight. But we cannot do it alone. We need the cooperation of Nigerians.
President Muhammadu Buhari has lent his reputation as a prudent and trustworthy leader. Attributes the Masons tasked with rebuilding the economy will do well to share as they proceed brick by brick.
No other man, no other Nigerian has that passion, has that discipline. Nigerians, we need discipline. We need strong discipline. And he's a father to the nation at a time when we need a father, because it's a tough time. We need a father figure who has no ulterior motives other than the best for Nigeria.
As people go along, they would say, yeah, but it's very difficult now. But at the end of the day, the benefits would begin to manifest definitely.